Been thinking a long time about where to continue the stories of my road adventure. Several main phases to the whole adventure. There was the LA phase, or the initial LA phase. And I explored the beaches along the LA coast, north and then south. And I explored some of the downtown area and a little bit of the other little city-ships, townships, boroughs, whatever you call them, of the greater metro Los Angeles area a little bit. And during those times there were various adventures. One point I was helping a guy pick up cans. Another point, I discovered the little Brea tar pits. I discovered other little adventures. One point I was walking down the street, just regular city street. All of a sudden I heard this loud crash right off to my side. And I thought, oh gosh, somebody's running into somebody that's been in a wreck. First thing I thought, I guess, was a wreck or something. I looked over and sure enough, a little old lady had taken a car from the parking lot. Instead of backing up like she thought she was going to do, she had accidentally ran forward right into this little taco stand that was on the side of the road there. And there were two people in the taco stand. And I think I was kind of angry and preoccupied at the time already, thinking about what am I going to do, and I'm in the streets and I'm poor and I'm hungry, and this didn't turn out like I thought it would, and I'm in Los Angeles and I'm not a star and not a rock and roller or anything. But you know, all those things, dreams you think about, and you get angry over it sometimes, not knowing what to do or frustrated, don't have anything and feel poor. And so all of a sudden this crash occurred, and it was like a distraction. It's like, okay, all right, let me deal with this. And I think I kind of prayed. I prayed silently to myself, Dear Lord, if you want me to do this, give me the tools, the ability to handle the situation, and I'll do it. And so I immediately turned. It was like everything was in slow motion. The people around me, weren't a whole lot of people, it was maybe 5 or 6 other people in the general area, were kind of stunned, looking at the accident scene, not quite calculating what had happened. It took me a few moments, seconds or so, to sort of evaluate it. But whereas there was like a little counter edge of it running alongside of the parking lot, now the car had pushed into that. And they were on the other side of the counter, the two workers, with their backs to the stove behind them, with that counter pushed into them. They weren't really trapped or hurt or pinned by it, but they were kind of awkwardly back there with the counter a lot closer to them, putting them closer to the stove than it normally would be. And it appeared to be a regular kind of a gas type grill type stove. There's only 2 of them, a guy and a girl, and then there's a little lady in the car, and she was fine as far as I could tell. She looked like she was just a little bit confused, and you know, wasn't a big wreck. She probably was going 10 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour when she plowed into it, and then just stopped. It wasn't no cracked windshields or anything like that. She wasn't bleeding, but I think she was confused. And so I didn't worry about her too much because she was in the car and the car looked okay. But I worried about them and whether there was a gas going to the grill, whether there was a gas line or anything like that that might have been broke or could be leaking. And I told the guy, I said, do you have a cutoff switch for the gas? See if you can cut the gas off. And so I think he looked around a little bit, but I don't know if he was real effective. And I kind of looked around the back, because the other side of it was kind of like outside the back of it. I didn't see anything obvious that showed where it was switches or knobs. But I think I was also in kind of a weird state of mind, a little bit hyper, a little bit kind of in shock myself, just trying to take in the scene and do everything as quickly as possible to make sure everything was okay, that they'd be all right. And then I just decided, well, if we don't see the gas lines, one of the main things we got to do is get them out of there. So I told the guy, I said, well, turn off the gas line if you can, but otherwise, come on, let's get you out of there. And kind of helped him climb over the side and got him out. And then she came over and she started to reach for me and she goes, ow. And she looked at her finger and her finger was broke. I think one finger. It wasn't a compound like bone jutting out or anything. It was just tender and kind of green, turning a little bit swollen. So I said, okay, be careful with that. Watch that. But come on, let me help you out. And I helped her out. And I got them both down, sitting on the curb away from the actual hut. But I guess they were still pretty close, so hopefully no gas main broke or anything. I don't think anything ever did. But after I got them out and felt like, well, the scene's under control, I looked around and said, has anyone called the police? And somebody said they called. And, or ambulance. I don't know if I said police or ambulance, but somebody said they called. And so I felt like, okay, I'm done. They're okay. The scene's been basically looked after best it could be. Oh, yeah, I do think I told him to turn the oven off, so at least he'd turn the heat off, whether he actually found the gas switch and turned that off too, I don't know. Or whether it was electric, but likely it's not. It was gas or propane. I don't know. I don't know if it was a mobile car. I don't think it was. I think it was one that was in place. Solid little wooden shack there. But everything seemed like it's under control, and I just walked away. It's kind of one of those things where it's a moment where I did feel later, especially looking back on it now, I do still feel it, like it was a little bit of an act of heroism. Not that I took any real chances, but that I had a clear enough mind at the moment, clearer than some of the ones around me, to react to the circumstance, to help them control any damage, turn off the oven, turn off the gas, and to get them out of there and make sure that they weren't bleeding or in any bad injuries or anything, and make sure that the ambulance or authorities, somebody had been called, and then just left the scene. There wasn't anything else for me to do. I wasn't going to stick around for glamour or glory or anything, and I guess maybe this is my glory, reporting that I was the guy that helped those people out of that. Talking about it now as part of the adventure. And I think if there was a grant of some sort of like countenance of God looking down to bless the people in this circumstance, bless me with the ability to help them, that maybe is what happened, and thus there's nothing else that I can take away from that. You know, I don't deserve anything else. I wasn't anything but a tool in that moment. And that's enough. I don't particularly feel proud of it, like I accomplished anything now. I believe I did something that was kind of like required of me in that moment. I feel infinitely better about the whole thing than if I had ran away, or if I had not done anything, or if I had been shocked or afraid or cried or lots of other things I could have done, or even stood there and laughed at them or taunted them or did some other mean or tried to take advantage of it, try to rob them or do something outside of what I would normally do. You know, one doesn't know what one will do in some circumstances, but not doing any of those, and in fact instead being of some service in that circumstance, I felt good. It gave me a good feeling, and wasn't anything else beyond that. And I don't think I probably deserve anything beyond just that good feeling of being able to help someone, a couple of people in that moment. By the time I left, there was a group of people, probably 15 or so, around them that were helping the two people who were working there who had helped out of the little shack, and there were several people, 3 or 4 of them over on the car by the little old lady that was driving the car and making sure she was alright. And the scene was, you know, relatively under control. It's just a real simple thing that happened, and being able to help a little bit, having a clear enough head in a circumstance like that to be able to help a little bit was really a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. And then later on, I went to Yosemite. I'll talk about that on one of the future coming videos. But there are other little adventures like that with the accident in and around LA. I mean, you know, not Angels of Mercy sort of adventures, but things like helping the guy pick up cans and finding the La Brea tar pits, stumbling upon, really just accidentally finding a Fat Burger restaurant. I'm really big on cheeseburgers. You can't tell by looking at me. Now, I do like a good cheeseburger, and they have a notorious place there called Fat Burger, and they have some good, greasy, good old fat burgers about as big as you want them. They were doing 2 and 3 and 4 patty stacks before the Wendy's, I think, even existed. I'm not sure that Wendy's even existed. This was in 1981. Maybe Wendy's existed, but these were big, fat, greasy patties, and even if Wendy's existed, they probably didn't do them quite like Fat Burger. I remember just stumbling upon them and scrounging up enough change. I'm not sure if I had to borrow some money from somebody then or bum some money off of somebody just to get a burger to try them. But it was definitely worth it. It was really a great burger. I remember one sidetrack that I went to Van Nuys and Burbank, which are kind of like over the little ridge of hills that are right north of Los Angeles. You got the beaches where Santa Monica and Redondo and Venice Beach and all that, Malibu, along the coast there. And then when you go inland to where Los Angeles proper is, there's this ridge of mountains. I think, well, the San Gabriels, but it may not be them. It's another little smaller ridge that goes from the downtown Los Angeles area and the Hollywood area. You go over those, that little ridge, into Burbank and Van Nuys. I think Laurel Canyon is a little further up there, and those areas. It's over a little bit north of Sunset Strip, I believe. If you look at a map and find Sunset Strip, that kind of goes along the north edge of Hollywood and downtown Los Angeles, and you go over there. In fact, Griffith Park is kind of in that area too, so you go over beyond Griffith Park, the other side there is Burbank and Van Nuys, and just exploring those areas, just going to another area to see what's there, and not knowing a whole lot about it ahead of time. I didn't do a whole lot of research like I probably could have, found out a little more about businesses or entertainment or places to go, things to see. But when I did go over to Van Nuys and Burbank, I was just walking down the street, and there on the side of the street was this little kind of nondescript little building, which I think the building itself probably housed one of those studio contractors who make vehicles. I believe the business was in the business of making vehicles for studio movies and such. And out there in front was the big terrain crawler. It's like 3 sections or something, the front, the middle, and the back, and it had the 3 wheels. It had a little tripod thing with the wheel, and a wheel, 3 wheels, and the sections were intermovable, so that although it was hooked together like a train, 1, 2, 3, they could move a little bit, and then the wheels could turn with each of the three wheels on each wheel. I can't describe it too well. It was the vehicle from Damnation Alley, the science fiction movie. And I'd seen the movie back in the past, knew what it was. It was based on a story written by Roger Zelazny. A real interesting story. The movie starred George Peppard, Dominique Sanda, and Jan Michael Vincent, I believe, were three main stars in the movie. And it's about a post-apocalyptic world where most of the U.S. was destroyed, atomic bombs or whatever. And some people from the West Coast or the Arizona desert or somewhere in that area, the western part of the United States, were trying to go to the eastern part of the United States, I believe, to find out if the U.S. government still existed and try to reestablish some of the communications and whether, you know, there was still a organized civilization anywhere. And the term Damnation Alley refers to that whole area between here and there, which in this post-apocalyptic world was filled with monsters and terrible windstorms and all kinds of electrical windstorms and stuff. And real good movie. Got to see it if you get a chance to see it, if you like science fiction. But it was that vehicle. I recognized it. And I'll try to maybe see if I can post a link somewhere to a picture of the vehicle. It's a real obvious, recognizable factor. And I believe in the same little parking area, there was also this car. It was just real fine, real sweet looking car. There's nothing particularly fancy. It wasn't gaudy. It wasn't a little coupe like a two-seater sports car. It wasn't any of those things. It was just a regular sedan with, I think, 4 doors. It was white or maybe gray silver. I think it was white. Maybe kind of a bone off-white color. But it just had really fine lines to it. The shape, the concept of the car, the way the car looked was just class. And it didn't have like gold trim, or I don't think it had gold trim. It didn't have any kind of real fancy anything on it. It just looked like a lot of attention was paid to how it looked. And like if you see a Mercedes or BMW or Rolls or Bentley or one of these particularly well-known luxury cars, they're sedan models. Jaguar, Citroen, Ferrari, Lotus. When you see even their regular standard streetcar models, you kind of know there's money there. That's an expensive car. That's not a regular car. That's not a Chevy. It's not a Chevy or a Ford or Toyota, you know. And it was something about this car that just told me, you know, that's a really beautiful car. Real simple. Just a sedan, just a 4-door sedan. Wasn't real short or small or sports car looking. It's maybe a little bit short, but looked like a regular kind of car. It looked a little bit like a Chevy. And I looked around it, I was so fascinated with it. I looked around until I found the name. It was a Maserati. It was the first time I'd ever seen a Maserati. And before I ever saw the name, I could tell that is a fancy car. That's a money car. I gotta say I'm sold. At least from 81. If you see an 81 Maserati somewhere and it's in good shape and running, buy it. I I'll try to find a picture of that too if I can. But it seemed like there was another Hollywood vehicle there too, and I can't remember. Like another science fiction kind of looking vehicle or something. Or space shuttle or something. I can't remember. But those two I definitely remember were there in at that little shop. And it was just right on the side of the street. So it wasn't like it was in a lot protected by barbed wire or chicken wire or something. They were right there. I could walk into the parking lot and walk around them and look all around them. And I did. And nobody came out, and wasn't any crowds. There wasn't guards or any kind of anything there. They were just there. And like if you walk down the street and just saw some cars in the parking lot, they were just there in a little building, nondescript building that probably was a business where they customize and design vehicles and stuff. And it was just a real neat thing to just happen upon like that.